Hi, my name's
Hola, me
Shawn
llamo
Shaler.
Cristobal. Don't know why.
Well played. Well played. Hi, my name's Shawn Shaler. That's my friend Chris Ford, aka the Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter. And today we're going to talk to you about what Avatar The Last Airbender did better than The Legend of Korra. We did the reverse probably 3, 4, well, now it'd be like 5 weeks ago. We're still recording on the same day.
I
So
think
if
it
I
was longer
still.
than that, Sean. It was a couple months ago.
Was it? Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Anyway, good episode. Go back and watch. I'll make sure it's in the links at the bottom. And Chris, for whatever it's worth, this is our New Year episode. Uh, I'm not a big subscriber to New Year. To me, you either get like to celebrate on New Year's or your birthday. You don't get to celebrate both. Like, do you want the personal New Year or the calendar New Year? You get to
Well, I think
pick
we
one.
both. I think we both don't like the idea of making New Year's goals
Yep,
and
that is
stuff.
not something I am fond of personally.
I just did like a somewhat rebranding of the channel. If
Hmm.
people have noticed, I'm sure you have. I changed the title of the channel to Avatar Last Podcasters / The Objective Geek because I don't do that many off videos. I don't really have. I have the passion for it still. I just don't have like the time and the commitment for it. I just thought, maybe it'd be cooler, maybe get a little bit more recognition if I just kind of rebranded it. And at first, I was like, no, I should wait till the New Year to do that. I was like, why? Why wait? Just do it. Change some
Just
stuff up.
yeah, just be the change you want to be today. I always just like New Year. People always like line up like 33 is my year, and then later 2023 is my year. It's like no, you got to pick one. You don't get to claim both sides here. You just celebrate one time. I would go with your birthday, right? Because then
In the words of the greatest showman, Hugh Jackman, from now on, wait till tomorrow starts tonight. Don't wait till tomorrow. Start tonight.
that
Let
is
this
beautiful.
promise in me start like an anthem in my heart. From now on. From now on.
That is beautiful. Chris, I know unpopular opinions were last week, but I do not like live action movifications of stage productions. It always feels unnatural to me. So, like, the first time you told me about Hamilton, and I didn't fully understand that you were. I thought when you told me about Hamilton initially being available, for some reason, I thought they were like making a movie out of it. I was like, that's going to ruin all of the charm of Hamilton. Until it's like, no, Broadway just finally allowed one to be recorded and produced in that way. That's what I want, Chris. Just record let me watch the stage play. Movifying it doesn't, I don't like that for live action. It weirds me out. So,
I don't think I have enough sense of how it looks either way. Like I never have seen the movie like Dear Evan Hansen came out. I didn't watch the movie. I listened to a few of the songs. I never watched the play, so I don't have a sentiment of what would be better.
but doesn't it
Um,
weird
I
you out that it's like a live action movie that's
I think
trying
I
to
would
be a
like
live
that.
action
They
movie,
will
but where
probably
people are
one
breaking out
day.
into song?
They will definitely one day do a Hamilton movie.
And I'll probably be
Personally, for
upset
it.
at the like just go watch Hamilton on stage. It's amazing. Real people are doing that in real time,
Oh,
Chris.
that costs money. I would
In
love to do that. That
in
sounds
real
so.
time people are doing that. But if you're doing it, I don't know, it just weirds me out. It's like it's trying to be a real movie and it's live action, but then it's like not immersive at all to me when people just start singing about their day-to-day activities.
Yeah.
I don't know why. That's a
Yeah.
weird thing.
Though I didn't really like In the Heights. That was a movie.
Not familiar with that one.
Also Lin-Manuel thing. It was like Lin-Manuel Miranda's first Broadway thing.
Hmm?
And like won whatever Broadway award for like best Broadway production that year. It was pretty big for him. And
Hmm.
then he just like did Hamilton and just skyrocketed
Okay.
into everyone's homes.
Well, thanks Broadway for like finally giving me what I wanted, which was to see a stage production without going to Broadway. That's important to me. Um. Anyway, that's enough of Shawn's rants. Let's only came up because my wife and her family love The Greatest Showman, and they watch it a lot, and I do not care for it at all. But different topic for a different
Okay
day.
movie, a really great soundtrack.
Oh
Really
well,
great
that's the idea
soundtrack.
of a musical, right? Yeah, great sound, great songs, absolutely. But movie itself, just I don't know, doesn't do it for me. But
Yeah,
Chris,
it's fun.
today we've got a topic that does do stuff for me. We're just talking about the things that Avatar, The Last Airbender, specifically the original series, did better than Legend of Korra. And while I
Yeah,
don't
because we all know Avatar is way better than Legend of Korra.
100% hands down, no, but for real, go watch the episode if you haven't. I'll make sure it's the top link in our suggested links below.
We're just keeping things a little objective here. If people want to use these as ammunition for why Avatar is better than Korra, go ahead. Anyway,
Avatar apologetics. That's what we're talking about today.
I have five on my list, and we'll go through them.
Are you
First one,
going from number 5 to number
yes,
1?
yeah, number five, number one.
Okay, awesome.
The first one is I think Avatar handles relationships better than the Legend of Korra does. When I mean relationships, I mean like Zuko and Iroh. Um, um. Oh wait, no, that's not what I mean. I'm sorry. I think it handles. That's not what I mean at all. 'Cause I think Korra does actually do a lot of great stuff, like Tins and the Korra and stuff like that. I mean, romantic relationships better. Uh, in Legend of Korra, we see Korra have a romantic relationship with Mako, with Asami. I think the Asami stuff is great. Probably could have used more build up. And even I still think it's great. Love where it ended. The Mako stuff was shaky, especially all the um, love triangle stuff going on. And I don't think it was necessarily a focal point in Avatar. I think they just handled it better.
I agree completely. I will say that even if I did not agree, I would still just say I also just like it better in Avatar because in Korra you're getting more of the high school relationship vibes,
Yeah.
where it feels just a little more innocent and fun in Avatar. So subjectively and objectively, I
Yeah,
think I prefer Avatar.
when you look at the ships in Avatar that I think are well done, uh, like Sokka and Suki, that's really well done. Um, even though Mei and Zuko, I don't think it works out. I think the writing is a little bit better than the Korra and Mako, even though that didn't work out.
Hmm?
I think Atena's done well. A couple other things are done well too.
Mm-hmm. Agree completely. Good start.
So this one is possibly more of a preference, but it has a consistent narrative, and that to me is unarguable. Like it just does. It's one consistent story throughout, um, and the characters as a whole go on a journey throughout. And I think that is one of the things that also makes it better. One of the things it does better than the version of Korra.
This would have that would rate much higher on my list. That's one of my favorite things to point out, or like the reason that maybe I gravitate more
Yeah.
towards it if you separate nostalgia out is like that's what makes it so distinct to me is that sort of finite beginning and end, that consistent start to stop narrative that's very tempting to fall out of. It's very tempting to say, well, what about it could have been season 4, blah blah blah. No, man, part of what makes Avatar great to me is that it does a really good job telling one really good story, one really big narrative. So yeah, that would probably place even higher for me, or at least it's one that I would pull out personally in an argument.
Yeah, put that out. My number three. So I got moving through these very fast. It'll be a short episode. That's fine.
It's New
Uh,
Year's and we've been up for a while. People will forgive us.
Number three. It does a. I have on here the use of traditional martial arts, but really, what I'm more so talking about is like the displayed use martial arts, it almost felt ingrained into the DNA of Avatar: Last Airbender and added a whole new dimension to the action. It made it a little bit cooler to look at, a little bit more interesting and vibrant. While Legend of Korra, it's a lot of it is just punch, punch. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense in the world why it's more like that. I mean, you have MMA, mixed martial arts is more of a thing. You're mixing a couple of things up, but in Avatar,
Blending bending styles together over time in a smaller world.
yeah,
That's fine.
in Avatar, every freaking element felt like it was. You could just see it on display, even if they didn't tell you that, hey, these are all four distinct martial arts styles, use these for different bending. You can see just the way Aang poses and he's doing circular motions, and they tie so well in with airbending, or how water bending is using Tai Chi, more flowing movements, or how fire bending is so like more exact with their movements. Um, and the earth bending is very. There's not a lot of like moving emotion in earth bending. It's very to the
Rigid.
earth and rooted,
Yeah.
and a lot of feet stomping. Like it was a part of the cultures of the show.
It's like you can tell in a good way, or in a way that I think what Chris is arguing for and what I would argue for, that like the core of Avatar: The Last Airbender, you know, when they were designing the show and they were thinking really hard about bending and like, well, we're not going to use magic, but instead they found this really cool way to like almost to build an entire show around this concept, around this bending concept, and tying it to these martial arts. Like it's like the show was developed from the bending and that very well thought ideas outward. Whereas in Korra, they didn't have to do that, and they didn't do that, right? They just in Korra that foundation was already there, so you maybe don't feel that same level of charm or detail. Whether or not it makes sense, it's not quite as fun in that specific regard.
And we do. I don't want to make it seem like Korra doesn't have any martial arts because it absolutely does.
Mm-hmm.
Like the movements they're doing is still choreographed. Sifu Kisu is still there, helping them out. Um, it's just a little less of it. Like
Yeah,
even characters like Suyin, Suyin doesn't. She's a lot more agile, and I think some of that comes from it makes sense in world because she's a dancer. Like she doesn't bend the way that like you would see Boomy bend and stuff like that. Uh, it's like you said, everything is a little bit more.
it's more efficient in Korra,
Uh,
which makes chronological sense.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is more efficient. Like you're absolutely right in that sense.
And like, there again, that's okay. But as far as just literally aesthetically enjoying and watching, like watching the bending in Avatar, it's like an artistic treat just by itself. It's neat to see that
Yeah.
translated into good animation. Good call.
Number two kind of ties in with number four, but I separated it out because I don't know, it's a little bit different. So, in my number two is that Avatar is more of like your traditional epic fantasy tale. Like it, it felt, it feels like Star Wars. It feels like War of the Rings. Like you have this ragtag team of 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 resistance fighters, and they had to go up against this overwhelming power that just seems unstoppable. And you have this chosen one character, like there's a legend to it. Like it's just it feels more epic in scale, which is weird to say because Korra, I feel like in book two gets really really epic, right? Where you go to the freaking genesis of the universe, and even the fights in like book three is just as epic as Aang's fight against Fire Lord Ozai. But it's something just
I
so
mean, it's purely the amount of buildup.
nostalgic.
It's the difference of getting,
Yeah, and it's
60
yeah,
episodes of buildup versus a handful, right?
yeah. Like even this picture here of Aang looking over, like, "Hey, the war is over," and everyone cheering. Like that is,
That's the end of Star
well,
Wars right there.
yeah, yeah, right. It's in a Star Wars. There's no moment like that. Uh, Or does it feel like there is a moment like that in
Well,
Korra?
it's always
Like it's
sad at
just
the end of Korra, whereas the big epic tales,
yeah,
the big epic
like
tales
Korra,
do tend to have like a happy ending.
yeah,
At
like
the end of Korra, they're always like walking through, wanton destruction.
yeah, like book one ends. Of course, Benny's taken away, even though it comes back. But it almost feels like somewhat of an afterthought. Book two, Ravo is ripped out of her, and the whole cycle's turned over. Book three ends in the most effed up way. She's freaking crippled. And book four, yeah,
I mean,
it ends on a more triumphant note, but
they're
it
still
also
like
feels
walking
like
through just a path of destroyed
yeah,
everything.
like it feels like her story's not over,
That
and
that
that's
that's
you know
delightfully serial in Korra, right?
yeah.
It is a narrative that is extremely well designed, and in a, especially where characters, and you talk about all the time, where like good character arc and growth is concerned. But maybe that's what you miss, or at least this is one. This is a reason. Your number two reason is one that appeals a lot to me because I like. That's the type of story I like. I like the big epic fantasy with the happy ending, and you get that. You get that closure, that resolution. Whereas Korra kind of like keeps
Yeah,
you like hooked into the next thing. So this is
yeah,
one that you probably hear me pull out a lot as a preference.
yeah. It almost feels like there's always going to be some issue for Core to solve. Like she
Which
had to
is
solve four
real.
different issues. Yeah, like she had to solve four different separate issues, and like, well, yeah, another one's going to eventually come up. By Avatar ends, you're like, all right, this is the end. Even though it continues in
It
some
it
aspects.
does, but and this, like you alluded to in the last episode, talking about like the greatest work of fiction. If you kind of wipe away all the other stuff and you're just plucking out like one big narrative, I mean that's where Avatar: The Last Airbender has a lot of appeal. Like, pop it down. Here's your script. Here's a really incredible story, and then that's the end of it. Like, that's a big deal to me, and that's got a lot of appeal.
Yep. All right, my number one reason why Avatar: Last Airbender is better than Legend of Korra.
It's because Jet
Uh,
dies.
well, Jet, yeah, Jet didn't have the opportunity. Who is your Jet in? Do you have a character that you hate like Jet in Legend of Korra?
No, I'm not gonna go a same character ish. I'll go like a parallel would be like I make fun of Gazan the same way I make fun of Jet.
Okay,
Right? Is
right.
that a fair? It's a comp at least, which is weird because like Gazan bothers me way less, but just because he's in a handful of episodes in season three, and that's it. But
Anyway, number one is Avatar has a better wealth of characters than The Legend of Korra, who are individually better written characters
I
than we
would
have in Legend
never
of
have
Korra.
expected you to say this. I am
Interesting.
engaged. Go on.
So let me preface this by saying Korra is one of the best written characters in either show. She's probably the I would argue she's the best written character,
Okay.
and Zuko is the second best. And here's
Okay.
why. Zuko, writing that character arc of bad guy to good guy is, I'm not saying it's easy, it's difficult to write, but we can see that growth because his point he goes from the antagonist to protagonist, he goes from an adversary to a friend. It's very that just seeing that is very easy. His whole motivations change. It's very easy for an audience to identify that this is a character arc. He went from there to there. It is so much harder to write a character whose goals and whose kind of sides are essentially the same. Laura, her goal is bring peace to the world as the Avatar. She
She's
starts
already
off there.
good. She's already
Yeah,
powerful.
yes, she's already good. She's already all powerful, and she ends the series being pretty much all good and all powerful. But her as a character does a complete 180. That is very hard to write. A character who clearly has a character arc, but whose mission and whose goal and pretty much their side is the same. but she is a
Okay.
completely different character than she was when she started off. I applaud that writing more than I think I do Zuko.
That's fair. Masterfully done.
Now that being said, Korra is like one of the. I'm not saying she's the only one who has a character arc, but her character arc is like so much better compared to every other character in Legend of Korra, and it's not even close. Like Legend of Korra
I mean, who's
was
your next
very
option? Is it Janora? Like, who's your
Tenzin,
next? Yeah.
Tenzin,
Okay.
Lin, maybe. Um, probably Tenzin and that whole dynamic between Tenzin, Bumi, and Kaya. Mostly Tenzin and how he deals with that stuff. Probably Tenzin. Um, maybe Lin. Lin, yeah, Lin. Lin has a good character arc. Um, but again, I go back to that whole like, what is the lie they tell themselves and how they deal with it.
Lynn's
Tenzin's
still
lie
kind
is
of there
that
at the end.
um, yeah, I mean Tenzin's lie is that like he 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 has to be the mirror image of Aang. And he deals with that in book two, right? When he sees himself the reflection he sees is Aang at first as an old man, and a lot of people think that's Aang's spirit talking to him, but it's not. It's what Tenzin projects that he needs to be, which is why his reflection he sees Aang, and by the end of that he sees himself because he realizes me myself is good enough. I am Tenzin. I am good enough. I don't have to be my father. Great character arc there.
Hmm?
And then you think about the other characters like Mako and Bolin and Asami. I don't think they change as much as the characters in Avatar. I
They
could
might
pretty much point to
they might
every.
change.
Oh,
I don't know. Things about them change, but you don't
yeah,
feel the change from them as a character. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Yeah, things about them change, but not sort of their roots.
yeah. Uh, in Avatar, I would say pretty much every main character, except for Aang, goes through a pretty big character arc. Now there's a reason for this, and it's because of the writing. uh Avatar, what's working for that, and we talked before about the epic scale and stuff, is that the backdrop of Avatar is this war, this 100-year war, and how the 100-year war affects every single character. War is a huge story plot point that can affect characters. It affects pretty much every character in Avatar, and it builds really great characters. Like Katara has to deal with um, losing her mother and her ideas of the Fire Nation, and can she trust anyone from the Fire Nation? Sokka has to deal with becoming a man and dealing with what he thinks a man should be. Should it just be a protector of his family? No, it's actually being smart and being ingenuitive, things like that. Toph really perspective really isn't about the war. Her character changes from being like I don't need anyone to being like oh I love having friends. Um, like I depend on them so much. Of course, Zuko's whole thing, Iroh's whole thing is about the war, things like that. So the war as a plot device to move these characters in a way is what really helps build up these characters. While in Legend of Korra, you don't really have that because you don't have another war. That'd be trouble writing if they had another war. Like that's like what Star Wars did with the sequel trilogy. They just kept bringing the whole war thing back.
I never thought of that as a good as like why that's such a good backdrop, but it does make sense as like a trope throughout these types of throughout fictional works in general. I guess for that reason. Um, I think even it feels better that these bigger, yeah, these fuller arcs are happening to people that feel more like they're happening to Team Avatar people. So I know that Tenzin's extremely important, and I guess you'd call him Team Avatar,
Hmm.
but he doesn't. It doesn't feel like it has the same weight as
Yeah.
even as Sokka going on his journey or Katara going on her journey. Well, Sokka more than Katara probably, but no, that's a great point that I wouldn't have expected you to make. That was the biggest surprise of these five to me.
Ooh, nice. Like
At the
surprising me.
top spot too. That's good. Something I never considered, at least. I might have interrupted you there. Did you have more thoughts on that spot?
No, not really. I don't think I did.
I'm gonna
Only
toss.
that like,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
only that Legend of Korra was very much a focus of Korra, and I'm not sure how I would improve this because it's good that it focuses on Korra so much. Like a lot of people are like, man, Aang is probably like people's third favorite character, right? Like there's Iroh, Zuko. A lot of people love Toph, love Katara. Uh, I don't really know a lot of people who love Legend of Korra and love characters more than they love Korra.
Hmm. That's fair. Like, if you like the show The Legend of Korra, there's an off chance that you either really like Korra the most or you haven't thought about it a whole lot, which is fine. Also fine.
Yeah.
Or you like the villains better. You're one of those people, which
Yeah.
is also acceptable.
And I believe we brought that up in our What Did Korra Do Better?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was pretty high on.
Yeah.
Chris, what I'm going to throw at you that I know you kind of agree with, but I'm going to try to, kind of disagree with, but I'm going to try to explain myself, is that I still,
No,
there's
I don't listen to it.
there's something, and I don't know what it is, but there's something more vibrant about the color palette in Avatar's animation. I don't know how to describe it. I think the best thing I can think of is that more does not always equal better, and so Korra has more detail, more animation, more frames, high def, all that stuff. But there's just something visually, and I literally went back and I just picked random episodes from. I picked something from season 3 of Korra and something from season 2 of Avatar. But there's just something more vibrant visually, and it could just be a matter of color palette, right? The color palette of the scenes or seasons that I chose. But I think what I'm going to stick with is more does not always equal better, and there's something just simple and crisp about the charm of Avatar: The Last Airbender's animation that appeals, or at least it ties directly to like my original nostalgia from my first watch through. So could still be nostalgia based, but I'll stand by the statement though that more does not always equal better. That the extra detail does not always better animation make or more visually appealing or anything like that. So it wouldn't be high on my list. I don't know if it would break into my 5 over anything that you just said right there, but it's something I think about a fair bit.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I need to do a rewatch of. I say that as if I
Do like a side by side, you know? Give just put them both on mute and
series. Yeah, I don't know. I'll look for that.
It's probably just a nostalgic preference for a 90s-ish style of cartoon versus a more modern style of cartoon. I know 90s is the wrong thing, but just like the era that I grew up in. It's probably just a nostalgic preference for that type of visual presentation. Could be it. I don't know. Well, hey, Chris, thanks for putting those together. Stellar points. If you all have other things that you believe, and I know there's people out there with plenty of thoughts on the subject, things that you think the Avatar: The Last Airbender did better than Korra.
Avatar is better than Korra.
If you didn't already state your opinion on the other video, or if you did, go ahead and state it again. We'd love to hear about it. In the meantime, have a happy new year if that's your sort of thing. You know what? Don't listen to us.
Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Happy New Year. TLC song?
What you said.
Don't go chasing waterfalls, Shawn.
Oh, yeah. No.
I don't want no scrubs.
The only reason I know any of those references is from the other guys. Yeah. And, you know, Weird Al made a parody of one of them once, but I don't remember what it was. Don't go making phony calls.
Watching that movie.
Don't go making phony calls.
Have you watched that Weird Al movie yet?
No, I haven't.
Have you heard about it?
Is it on HBO?
Playing. Oh, it's on like Roku app.
Oh.
You have a Roku somewhere? You can watch it for free.
I do have a Roku. Interesting.
There will be ads, though.
An Avatar Roku. I have one in one of my living room TVs. No, I haven't yet, but
Roku app.
Listen. You don't have to like Weird Al's music to respect the fact that that guy made an entire career out of like parody comedy music.
Not only did he made a genre. Like, I'm not a
He
Weird Al
invented
fan.
the genre as we know it.
Yeah, I'm not a Weird Al fan at all, to be honest.
Mm?
He just doesn't have like his musical capabilities, like his vocalness does not appeal to me, and that's fine. It's a perfect thing. But I respect the crap out of him because I love parody music. Like The Lonely Island
Mm?
is amazing, and The Lonely Island
Those
would
kids
not
grew up
be.
listening to Weird Al. There's no way
Yes,
they didn't.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I am a moderate. There's one weird album that I like, and the rest of them not so much. The one just kind of hit me in the right time. But like, yeah, that guy invented an entire genre that like is bred for YouTube stuff today. So,
Yes, yeah.
I don't know how the hell we got onto Weird Al other than, no, I actually literally can't remember. But anyway, yeah, you know what? Have a happy new year. That's where it was. It was the TLC thing. Have a happy new year if you're into that, and don't let us ruin your New Year's resolutions if you're into that stuff. We're just old
Yeah, do
curmudgeons.
it. If you need that to motivate yourself,
Do
then
do
do it.
do your thing. I gained like 10 pounds last year. I'm not gonna say anything.
Oh
So
gosh, I watched my taco video yesterday for some reason. I was like, man, I was way skinnier then.
that's,
That was probably the most skinny I've been when I was working out like 5 days a week, playing basketball like twice a week,
hmm?
eating fairly decent. Yeah.
I I was always empathetic because I'm a pretty considerate-ish guy. I'm not super aware, but I'm a considerate person. So when you tell me that having kids in your home, you're like, yeah, I put on a few pounds when we had a kid or whatever because things change. Like, I would have always believed you, but I don't know if I would have understood the extent. Just a month, Chris. I had babies for a month. That's it. 7 pounds in that month. Seven
That's
pounds.
funny.
Like I said, it's not that
That's
I
a
was
little
arguing with
commitment, yeah.
anybody before. It just like it's hard to like understand the full impact, and that was in a very small sample size. So, um, anyway, yep. Happy New Year. We'll see you next year if you're watching this the day it comes out. And Chris, you have a good New Year too. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right.
Does it help you to see the waveform so you can know where it's at?
Oh, I can't see it right now for some reason.
Oh, am I not sharing my Discord screen?
It's not. Hold on.